I hope you guys are all doing good, and it's very cold and snowy here in Michigan. So, uh, well, thank you so much for having us, and thank you for um, again just your love and your support. I always say, you know, you are our sending church, and we're your mission church, and I always feel like Paul coming back from his missionary journeys and coming home, and talking about what's been going on. And so, um, even though I'm not in person, I miss you guys so much, and we love you, and we're just so excited um, to hopefully see you again in person soon. But I just you guys are home to me, and you guys are family. So. Um, this has been, like I said in the sermon, this has been a crazy year. Obviously, I know it's been crazy for you guys too. And it's been had a lot of challenges, had a lot of tough things. I talked a lot in the sermon about how our church has had to adapt to that. But it's we have not only made it through so far, knock on wood, but it's kind of been a weird like thriving too. People have been very generous throughout this pandemic, and so our donors, people have been sponsoring. I mentioned, we started really early on in the pandemic doing $10 subscription sponsored produce boxes, and we got over 10,000 sponsors for those, and have given over 10,000 of those, and we've gotten grants to help people who are food insecure. And so at our fruit and vegetable store, Sprout, we sell low cost nutritional food, but we've also been giving a lot of free food away to people who are in need, so to just supplement them during the struggle. So that's been a big thing. And then one of our teammates, Emma, who's been helping to run our kids programming, she started right before the pandemic. She started a new tutoring program, which we have been trying for years to get going. And so we're so excited to get that going. And then of course the pandemic hit, but we have adjusted that made that COVID safe. And we've that has been a really great success and really helped kids, especially in our neighborhood, who struggle with online school. That's a real difficulty for a lot of kids in our neighborhood. They don't really get the resources that they need for that, and sometimes don't even have like an internet connection for it. So that's been a real struggle. So things COVID wise, in Michigan was like one of the worst hit states early in the pandemic. It was kind of an epicenter, especially Detroit metro, that we've been in. And then it got, a little better. And then it got this winter has been really bad. And Pontiac, especially, all the hospitals have been over capacity, and we're not accepting new patients. Thankfully, no one in our neighborhood has gotten COVID that we know of.
Yeah, has had a positive test.
Yeah, at least that we know of. So our immediate community has been mostly spared so far, which we're very thankful for. We've been very worried about that, and thus have been very safe about everything, because first of all, a lot of people in our community live in a few apartment complexes, and we've seen spread through those very quickly. And also a lot of people have comorbidities. They have diabetes or COPD or heart and lung issues, and so if it were to go through our community, it could be very dangerous. So we've been very careful with all the activities we've done, everything that we've done, and so we're doing our best make it through. For those of you who have visited our church at Micah 6, you know it's in the back, in normal times, non-pandemic times, it's in the back room of our Sprout building, in the back room of our vegetable store. And it's about the space, it's like half the size of the portable was at Tintern. And we would squeeze 35 adults, sometimes 40 adults in that little room. And then sometimes we'd have 20 kids in the basement for kids' church. So obviously we can't do that during the pandemic. Because if one person had COVID, then we'd all be breathing on each other. And so we knew pretty early on that we wouldn't be able to meet in that room until everything is safe. So like I said, we did kind of a hybrid online church, and kept our meals going. And then in the summer and warmer months, we went to an outdoor church in our garden. That was great. And then we did bonfire church, and now we're kind of back to a hybrid plan. So we are hoping here in April to go back to an outdoor church if there's not snow on the ground still in April. So, but yeah, so we're excited about moving forward. Do you want to talk about everything else going on?
You covered it very well. I think that the only thing I would add is 2020 has really seen a lot of progress on our Webster project. And so as most of you are probably aware, we had purchased Webster Elementary School back in 2016, and with plans to renovate it into a community center. And so 2020, though it's been very unfortunate, it has given us a lot of more downtime to be, on the computer, on Zoom, on, doing things that, are more of the back end kind of things. And so Coleman and a couple of us have really been pushing to get Webster Community Center really off the ground and on its legs. And so we are, knock on wood, hoping that groundbreaking will start around November of this year, 2021. And so we currently have 100% of the classrooms dedicated already of organizations that want to move in once the building opens. And so we're so excited for that. And it's a lot of other nonprofits. Church will move in there. Sprout will move in there and have a larger space so that we can offer more things in the community, and just lots of different programming, kids activities, all sorts of things. And so we've just been so excited about how that project has been moving this year, in 2020. And we have a really great team sort of pushing that forward.
We also have won a lot of grants this year. For those of you who voted, because that one grant that people decide, oh, we should choose who to give money to based on who gets the most clicks and votes. That's a good way to decide. But thank you for everyone who voted in that. We won that grant. And so that was $10,000. And then we also won a grant for $100,000 for a new greenhouse. It'd be like an industrial, like professional greenhouse that we're going to be putting in front of Webster. That's going to really add to our capacity and allow us to keep gardening through the winter. Yeah, and then we've had a lot of other grants. Like it's Carrie and Coleman and Emma and Bethany, they all work very hard, and we've gotten a lot of grants for Sprout and for giving food away. So this has been, God has really blessed us this year with generosity, partners, fundraising support, and just increasing the mission so much more.
So I have a couple questions, but if anyone else would like to ask a question, you have a couple options. You could type it in the chat if you'd like to do that, or if you'd like to just kind of wait your turn and unmute and ask your question, you're welcome to do that as well. So my two questions is, you mentioned the kids that live in the neighborhood. How many kids would you say live in the immediate neighborhood around the building, around the place where you guys used to operate out of, next door to Webster?
So between, we have a couple core families that are really in our tutoring programs and our summer camp, things like that. And that's probably about 15 to 20 kids. And then this summer, actually, like summer 2020, there's a street behind Micah 6 where there's a whole nother group of kids. And so they started coming to a lot of our outdoor kids programs in summer 2020. And so we were really excited to start making relationships with them and, building, just getting to know them and having them participate in our activities. And so tutoring primarily is about 8 to 10 kids, because we do have to keep it small just to make sure everyone is safe because it is inside. But some of those students, so we have a 6th grader who lives a couple doors down from us, who, when he came in, they tested his reading level and he was at a 1st grade level. And so through the tutoring program, he has been assigned a reading specialist, and right now they've gotten him up to a 3rd grade reading level. And so, like, still far from 6th grade, but just seeing that growth and seeing that ability and seeing him get excited that, hey, he can start reading more things than he was able to, has been really awesome. And we had some 1st graders in our tutoring program who didn't know a single letter of the alphabet. And so they came in, and Emma worked really hard to get some specialized activity books and specialized, games and things like that to start teaching someone the alphabet. And Tony, who's just like the cutest kid in the world, I think it now knows all 26 letters, which is just super awesome. And so we've been really excited to see that growth.
And I would say, like, we first SummerSlam that many of you have participated in, our big back to school bash, we gave away school supplies and backpacks to, I think, over 300 kids for that. So we have a ton of kids in just our immediate neighborhood, probably a few hundred here in the west side of Pontiac. And so, but yeah, so, we have our core that are a part of our activities, but yeah, we still reach out and reach a lot through various things.
Yeah, and then so for Santa's workshop, who some of you are familiar with that activity, so every Christmas time we do one of our 2 like main events where we have a space where parents can come and like shop for their kids, and it's completely free for them. And we were really worried this year because we wanted to still host it, but we weren't sure how to, like, with COVID. And luckily we had found a space that was like a really big, because again, we normally do it at Sprout. And so, like, people are jam-packed in that building and all sorts of stuff. And we had found a really open space building, a large building where, we could patrol how many people come in at a time. And unfortunately, a week before the event, the organization that runs that building called and was like, you know what, we just can't do it. And so we scrambled around and ended up doing an outdoor event where it was a drive-through. And so people could just drive along. All of the presents were laid out on lots and lots of different tables, and they could look at them and point at what they wanted. And then they had a special, assigned person to be their shopper who would run and go get that thing and show and be like, okay, do you want this? And so through that program, we actually gave presents out to 800 children. So we're really excited about that.
800 what?
Did he say 800 children?
Mm-hmm. So, and the interesting thing about Pontiac and our neighboring nonprofits is a lot of nonprofits these days, they want to see proof that, so like if you're coming and you say, I'm shopping for 5 children, they want to see birth certificates or other things to show that you have 5 children. And so for us, we just don't see either the need or the value in that, and we just feel that it's a little dehumanizing of, okay, prove to me you have 5 children, and so with that, so we don't require anything, and so not only can I go shop for my children, but I can also go shop for my grandchildren or my nieces and my nephews, or like other children in my life that normally I would give presents to, but maybe I can't afford it this year. And so we are really able to help people spread the love of Christmas in that way, through that event. And so there's some questions in the chat.
Yes.
Ooh.
So Sandy wanted to know, where did the 100,000 grant?
Yeah, so the $100,000 grant came from Impact 100. It is an organization in Detroit that is completely based of women. And so they are women leaders in their fields, that run, have joined together to create this organization called Impact 100. And the organization itself does workshops and really promotes women in business and women in leadership positions. And then they also have a philanthropic side of their organization. So each year they pick an organization to give a $100,000 grant to. And so this year in 2020, we were very fortunate that we were chosen as the finalist. And so that $100,000, like as Dylan said, is going towards building some new greenhouses, but also really helping our environmental side of the Webster project. So making sure that everything we're doing for Webster is environmentally friendly and is being done properly. And so they were really excited to hear about that project that we're taking on.
David asks, have you been able to hire any new interns for 2021? Very timely. We just did. We have hired 6 interns.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of interns coming. I believe 4, maybe 5 of them are students at Harding University. And we have 2 of our interns from last summer that are returning. One is doing his social work placement with us. So he's going to be actually doing kind of an expanded program that's more social work inclusive. And then we have one girl from Indianapolis who came on a mission trip with her group and is now in college, or is now in university and is doing an internship with us.
Yeah, and so with the interns, because we ended up having interns this past summer as well, and so with COVID, like we all got tested, and all the interns got tested before they came, and then we just enveloped them into our family of, like the group of us are just going to be together for the summer and stay safe together, and that really helped us because, as you guys are aware, some of you, that we had to end up canceling all of our mission trips for the summer. So like all the large groups that usually come for a week at a time, we had to cancel all those for 2020, and most likely will not have any in 2021 either. And so having a strong internship program like really saved us, because they were able to do a lot of the garden work, a lot of the kids programming, things like that normally those mission trips would have taken on.
And 2 of our summer interns from last year joined the team.
Yeah.
And so they stayed on. So one is is in university or in grad school, but is having to do school remote. And so he was like, I might as well just stay at Micah 6 and do that. So we had a very good intern class last year, which is great because it can be hit or miss sometimes. Noel asked, as Webster's developed, what are your plans for the Sprout building? Good question. That is also going through some exciting times. We had 2 friends. Okay, let me back up. 4 years. I think since while I was still at Tintern, I think like when I was still in Canada, I was talking about us starting a coffee shop here in our neighborhood in Pontiac. That has been a plan for as long as I have lived here, for like 8 years. And we kind of say it's like a cursed coffee shop It's like the Defense Against the Dark Arts coffee shop, because it's just like one thing will get going, we'll get close, and then for whatever reason, it ends up not working out. So we had two friends that were finally like, we want to rent out that space to do a coffee shop. They already do have a mobile food program. So they did all the paperwork, got all the permits and everything that they needed. We're getting the equipment. They were like so close to being opened. And then the pandemic hit. So we like to say that it was their fault, that COVID is all because we were close to opening this coffee shop. But they are moving ahead. And so they're starting plain and fancy food. And they're going to offer cheap, low-cost coffee. And then, of course, post-pandemic will actually be like a warm place that people can sit down, which doesn't really exist in our neighborhood. There is no place that you can actually come inside and sit down. And so that's going to be just a great place for community. So that is in the room where we normally have church. So we will, church may, until we move into Webster, it may be like kind of a coffee shop church, you know, and be very hip and cool. So we're excited about that. So as of now, they are planning on staying there. And then we have a lot of different ideas for what to do with that building. And we'll be using it for some type of activity or some benefit for the neighborhood. Yes. How's your b-ball game? Can you do league basketball in the gym? My basketball game is not good and getting worse. But yeah, there is an I don't know. I'm sure many of you have been inside of Webster. So Webster is the old elementary school. It was built in 1920, and it for those of you who have been inside it, it has this beautiful old gym. Now it's broken up and the floor has kind of warped and there's like bubbles in the floor. But once we get that fixed up, it looks like a gym from like Hoosiers, like in a really old timey gym. And because it's so old, it doesn't even have a 3-point line. And it's like smaller than a regulation court. But yeah, so we're planning on restoring that.
And one of the organizations that has already has already committed to coming into Webster once Webster opens is PAL, which is an organization ran by our police department on creating sports leagues for local children. And so they will definitely have a basketball league among like a soccer league and other things. And so we're really excited for them to be in the building.
This is a weird detail and it's way too much information. But so one of the things we had to do with Webster was we are keeping its historical designation. So it's a historical building because you get more money that way. But apparently when Webster was built in 1920, that gym had like a glass ceiling. And so it doesn't now. They got rid of that a long time ago, but to restore it to its historical place, we're going to have to restore that glass ceiling, which to me is so weird with basketball because like I feel like the sun is going to like come and shine through, or like during plays and stuff. So, but apparently there's a specific type of glass that you can get that reflects the sun, so it's not like, you know, becoming a magnifying glass.
Sandy, your question. So we ripped up all the flooring that we had wanted to. It is still sitting in bundles in Webster. So I actually stole one to create a coffee table from Webster wood. But we had turned it over to an organization that was going to restore it for us and sell it for us, but they ended up like going bankrupt or something like that. So then we had to go get it from them. So it's been a whole thing. So no, unfortunately, it's a little bit of a sore point, and so it just sits there.
They kind of ghosted us for like a year, and like weren't returning our calls, and then it seemed like they disappeared, and it was a weird thing. So. David,
Yes.
will there still be a focus on buying rental properties for low-income housing, or is it the attention mostly going to Webster Project, greenhouses, food production?
So both. So one of our new teammates who Dylan was talking about, who's in his grad program right now for social work, is interested in macro social work. And so he and Coleman have been working a lot on our future housing projects. And so there is a apartment, like an abandoned apartment complex next door to Webster right now that we are looking at purchasing from the city, like the city owns it currently. And the hope is that we can get into more housing so that we can make sure that as rental prices go up, that we are making sure that there's at least some affordable housing near Webster and in our community. And so that apartment complex is one we're looking at, but there's also a number of other like duplexes and things like that in our neighborhood that we're looking at purchasing, both for two reasons. One, definitely to be involved with housing in our community and making sure that we're keeping affordable community, but also it is a sort of a revenue help for Micah 6 in that, you know, if you do have rental properties, it is a continual income versus donations, which is a continual income, but it is a questionable income. You know, like some years you might have more donors, some years you might have less donors. And so we're looking to diversify our revenue sources in order to make Micah 6 and Webster, you know, more of a stable organization where we know at least, okay, this percentage of income will always be coming in. And then also with the Webster project, there are some governmental agencies and large foundations that really like to only get involved with projects if housing is tied to it. Because, you know, like with the community center is only going to be as successful as however many people come into the community center. And so having housing tied to it can increase the chance that the community center is successful and can strengthen the community in general. And so with the apartment complex, like if we are able to purchase that and work on renovating it, then that will help people also get involved with the Webster project. And so the goal right now is that Webster, like breaking ground and reconstructing Webster is the priority, but that we might buy the apartment complex so that we own it, so that nobody else, you know, buys it in the meantime, and then start that renovation once Webster is open.
Noel asks, can you say more about this stability in the neighborhood, more long-term residents? Yeah, so when we first moved into the neighborhood in Pontiac, so our relationships with people would usually last, you know, maybe a few months, because of a variety of reasons. Either there's probably like 4 or 5 low-income neighborhoods in Pontiac, and for a long time people would just kind of rotate through those different neighborhoods. And part of that was people would get evicted, people couldn't pay rent, people would get Section 9 housing vouchers and would kind of be told you're going to live here, and they didn't like it. And then they would request a new place. People would go to jail. People would go to rehab. They would struggle with addictions. Sometimes people would pass away. So it was very, very quick cycle, and it was very hard to keep any stability. And goodness, those first few years of doing church planting was so hard because you weren't having the same people anymore. It was just constant turnover all the time. And you would pour all this, energy and love into these relationships, and then people would move away, and you'd just be like, so what has happened now is we have now become the neighborhood where people want to come to and people want to stay. And so part of that is because of, the services that we provide, whether it's, Sprout or the gardens, or families with children want to be a part of our kids programming. So kids camp tutoring, kids Bible study, we have church, all those activities. But also we have like our community barbecues, which really brings the neighborhood together. It allows people to see each other. And if you see, this is proven, if you actually see your neighbors and get to know your neighbors, then crime goes down in your neighborhood, just by the mere fact of seeing people, because now they're not just anonymous. And so that has turned around. So crime is way down in our neighborhood. There are a few more like businesses and stuff in our area. The economy has picked up a little bit, and over the years that we've been there. And rent, this is kind of a consequence of a tough consequence of things getting better, but rent is actually going up. And so some people have actually had to move out because the neighborhood got better and rent moved up and they weren't able to afford to stay. So kind of weird long-term unintended consequence of that. And so but things have gotten a lot better. And then also what's really cool is we've seen that even though people might move away or move to a different side of town or sometimes a different city, we've done a really good job of keeping up with them. And so people will still be a part of our community and still be a part of our church, even after they move away. And either I or Carrie or some of our teammates, again, in normal times, in non-pandemic times, will drive around and pick people up. So I'm usually making I feel like on Sundays I'm more of a bus driver than a preacher, because I'm making 6 trips to go pick people up for our Bibles. We have our home Bible studies on Thursdays, and this summer we did them outside. And so I had my little car, and I could fit 4 kids in it. And so I was literally making 4 trips out, go pick up kids, bring them out. Then, we'd have Bible study and then 4 more trips to go drop them off. So, we work very hard to make sure that everyone feels connected, and everyone feels a part of things. What are you going to say? Sandy asks, who continues to mentor the team? We have really great partnerships with Rochester Church of Christ and Rochester University. So we have a few professors from Rochester, and Adam Hill, who's the pastor at Rochester Church of Christ, is a good mentor for us. Matt Nichols, for those of you who were at my wedding, Matt Nichols he married us, or performed the ceremony. And he's been a really great mentor for me and Carrie especially. And so that's been great. And then Keith, Dr. Huey and his wife Barb, they are members of Rochester Church of Christ, and then Dr. Huey is a professor at Rochester, and so they are actually attending our church now full time, and have made this a big part of their ministry. They're kind of our elder. Keith is kind of our elder, and so they have been a big part of mentoring our team, and
Barb's on our board now.
Yeah,
which is really great.
Yeah, and she's a social worker here in Pontiac.
In general, we have a great board.
Yeah, we have a really great board of directors who's really looking out for us. And so, as we have expanded into all these social work opportunities, we've been getting a lot of great help from social work professionals and people with experience and people who have been doing that for a long time. So how can we support you? How can we pray for you? Well, definitely pray just for strength and patience in these days, as we kind of, I kind of hate this point we're at right now, because it's like we're gonna hit a point here where we're not quite locked down, but we're not out of the pandemic either. So it's kind of even more dangerous for a lot of people. And it's a lot of transitions, and you're having to figure everything out. And so everything is just more difficult in the pandemic. I know you all know that too. But just, when you're having church outside, I have to become an amateur meteorologist. And so, especially here in Michigan, and it's just, it'll be raining 30 minutes before church, and then it'll stop raining 5 minutes before, and then start again 5 minutes into church. So all of that is difficult. All the precautions we have to take to make everything safe. So just pray for health, and pray for strength, and that we can share the love, and really just pray for our neighbors, and pray not just for physical needs, but also I think everyone's really struggling emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. Everyone's really feeling it, especially now in the middle of winter. They're not able to get out as much, and I think everyone's going a little bit crazy, ourselves included. So pray for that. And then thank you so much for all of your financial support. We're so thankful for that. I know we worked out a new agent agreement with Don, Jeremy, and the missions committee. So thank you to everyone on the missions committee. And thank you for working that out. And that is going to be a huge blessing moving forward. Again, you guys are so awesome. You have paid off our mortgage for the building at Sprout and church and the coffee shop. So so thank you so much for that. And we're just so grateful. And we just thank you for your continued support for that's going to neighbor stabilization. And
a lot of neighbor stabilization in that, helping keep our neighborhood spaces clean and up to date and prospering, so that when it is getting into the warmer months, that people have a beautiful and nice place to sit outside and be safe, but be with each other when possible. And you all are helping our neighborhood ride system, which, as Dylan was talking about, helps us get people to church, helps us get people to work and the other places that they need to go. So we're really really appreciative of that. And a number of different other things you're helping with our volunteer programs. And so getting people out to come see Micah 6 and help in the garden, help at church, help be part of our community, so that they can, one, assist us in our needs, but also take our teachings back to their own community and help spread those. So we're very appreciative. You can take David's question, but Jim, we have 4 right now, but one is only semi-temporary. So 3 are ours and have all been given to us from Micah 6 in different ways. I'm sure some of you have heard the stories, but our 4th one, my brother lost his job during COVID, and with that ended up having to move back in with my dad. So we have his cat for an undisclosed amount of time. But yes, so they are.
Yeah, when people die in the neighborhood, we take their cats. That's the long story short. And David, I don't know why the Pistons are so bad. I think, hopefully they can be really bad and get a good pick. So,
What are
and the Red Wings, yeah, they're bad, right? Yeah, I think. I know the Tigers are bad. And the Lions are bad. Everyone's bad. University of Michigan is bad. Everyone's struggling. Yeah. So I feel like we've been talking for a long time. I'd love to hear from you guys. How are y'all doing? I know it's weird on Zoom.
We're doing great.
Yay, thanks.
We're enjoying hearing from you.
Oh, thanks.
It's lovely to see you guys.
It's good to see y'all. Just to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking because normally, like right around now, when we'd be going to see you all, I feel like we've been up at like late January the last couple years, and like I always love those trips because like we get to see you, we get to see Canada, and be away and see Tintern, and so
See some waterfalls.
yeah, so we're sad that that's not happening this year.
I don't know whether.
Yeah, the building renovation project is almost wrapped up. We are getting possession of the building, and the last little bit of work is getting done over the next week or two. And then we're in sort of a holding pattern waiting for the provincial restrictions to be loosened. Right now, even if we had a building, we can't use it. But we're hopeful in the next couple of months as the restrictions loosen, we'll be back together. We quit meeting together publicly in the middle of March last year, like everybody else, and we haven't ever gotten back together again. So it's been, going on 10 months now. Well, I guess 11 months. So we're hopeful that, by maybe next month, we'll have a chance to do something and then slowly progress into the building.
Tell me about, I saw on Facebook that there was like a Tintern garden or Tintern garden club or something.
Yeah, we have a small patch just off the parking lot where we were doing some kids programming and teaching kids how to plant and look after vegetables. And then we were producing some vegetables and learning a lot. There are some things that grow really well up there, some things that don't. Pumpkins grew great the first year and have been awful ever since. Weeds have been great, just amazing. But we're hoping to get back into that again this year. And if folks want to take a raised bed, they can. But we're hopeful to grow some things. Sandy's had success with tomatoes. I know she's had lots of them, and sunflowers.
Well, that's fun. That's very nice.
Dylan and Carrie, I've been scanning all of the faces of us who are watching and listening to you. And it's just been really lovely to see constant smiles. You are truly loved and missed, but I think hearing all of the amazing things that are happening there, despite all of the darkness of COVID, is very, very encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks, Sandy. Yeah, it's so good to see all of you. Like, it's been such a strange year. But everyone's making it through. Coleman and Bethany are doing well with baby Caroline, and she has just turned 1.
Yeah, she's so cute.
Yeah, and is keeping them very entertained. And
That's
keeping
one word for it.
keeping us all entertained. So that's been good.
But
Well, any other questions?
I miss every Super Bowl. I miss all of the times we would gather in the sanctuary and watch the Super Bowl together.
Yeah. When we get back to the building, man, we are just going to go hard on all the things we used to do. We're going to do them all. You guys. There's
So
Daniel.
I respect your opinion as a super fan, Dylan. So who's your pick today?
I'll say Chiefs. Chiefs by 3.
Okay.
Tight margins. Well, and I will say, I know Dylan has been like, and it's the strange thing of like, COVID's been so awful, but there have been these strange blessings that we would have never thought were possible. And I know Dylan's been super thankful at being able to participate in poker on Friday nights. And so
Men's fellowship. We call it
men's fellowship. I'm sorry. Of course you call it poker. No, there's no gambling involved. But
Food sacrifice to idols. We're not doing that.
So last question from one of your Tintern moms regarding babies.
No, you didn't, Sandy.
Sandy, I'm getting my doctorate. I'm busy enough.
Right. Carrie is getting her doctorate, and we're pretty busy right now, so we'll see.
Wait, 2 years. Ask again in 2 years.
We'll give you very detailed updates about everything.
Not too detailed.
I was gonna say it's still a church, so
Real vague, general details.
Yep.
Just public knowledge. Well, thank you, Dylan, for joining us, and thank you everybody for checking in. I see